Okay, so we're going to be talking about student education records, what a definition of a student education record is, and what are the risks to your child. First thing you need to know is the Family Education Rights Privacy Act that provided protection of student records and required parental consent for disclosure of those records has been weakened, and it was done through regulation. It was not done through a change of law by Congress. It was just regulated and weakened. And FERPA was rewritten to allow states, districts, or schools to share PII or personally identifiable information with third parties performing operational services who could be designated as school officials. So that includes contractors, volunteers, consultants, and other parties. So essentially, there goes your parental consent for disclosure of your student records on your child, and also that information can now, in lieu of you, can be shared with contractors, consultants, volunteers, and other parties. I wanted to show you this because this is policy JOAP from our school board policy, and it's a Missouri School Board Association policy, so please look it up in your local school district, JOAP, under board policies. And I just wanted to show you how the language in FERPA is now mirrored in school board policy at a local school level. And it says a contractor, consultant, volunteer, or other party performing services on behalf of the district. Okay, so if you're not one of these, surely you'll be bound to be to fit under other party performing services on behalf of the district. There's another really key definition of biometrics is found in FERPA, and it includes personally identifiable information, means a record of one or more measurable biological or behavioral characteristics, kind of like your psychometrics, that can be used for automated recognition of an individual. Examples include retina, iris scans, fingerprints, DNA sequence, facial characteristics, and handwriting. And here we go back to policy JOAP. Under the definition of an education record, it says that it's a record related to a personally identifiable student, and it's a record that may include information that is handwritten, in print, or recorded using digital, electronic, or other means, and includes biometric records such as fingerprints. Note that it could be a record maintained by the school district or an agent acting on behalf of the school district. So there is your definition of a school official and the change in FERPA. Okay, moving right along here, we're going to be talking about psychometrics just a little bit. And this is so important because psychometrics is a psychological measurement. And what it measures is the abilities, attitudes, personality traits, educational achievement, knowledge, skills, etc. And how they gain that information or measurement is through assessments, such as questionnaire tests, personality tests, and so forth. What I want to show you is this. Okay, this is a request for proposal or an RFP that was put out by the Superintendent of Public Instruction. And this is when they were developing the SBAC test. They put out a request for proposals for companies to bid on the psychometric services that would become part of the SBAC test. And we know that this was fulfilled. The service was fulfilled. The contract was bid out, and there are psychometric elements in the SBAC. That is why the tests are computer adaptive. Your child is not going to be taking the exact same test as their neighbor, because depending on how your child answers those questions on that test, the tests are adaptive. And in the background, they're collecting the psychometrics. Okay, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Missouri Student Identification System. What I want to point out here is that we received nearly $9 million in lieu of a federal grant to move all data, reporting data, from the aggregate to the personally identifiable unit record. And then the Department of Ed will fund the longitudinal data system, we'll talk about that more in a minute, to build the infrastructure for interoperability or the sharing between the Department of Ed, individual school districts, schools, post-secondary ed, and workforce data. And to rebuild the EdFax, which is your Federal Department of Ed reporting system, after its conversion from aggregate to unit record source data. So essentially what happened was a complete overhaul of the education reporting system, moving from aggregate to personally identifiable individual unit records. Okay, so this is what we have after 5 rounds of federal funding. What we have is a streamlined collection and distribution of personal student information from preschool onward. So P stands for preschool, 20 is beyond, and W is workforce. So I wanted to share this picture came from a slide presentation done by the P20 steering committee for stakeholders that were participating in the development of the P20 system. And it's just really compelling. ERDC is the Education Research and Data Center. Your OSPI, that's the one who put out the Psychometrics component for SBAC. That's the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. So this is your P12 students, so your elementary ed and high school, junior high students, their courses, graduation, and their teachers. So DEL, Department of Early Learning, that's your preschool information, childcare, and teachers that they have. Here we have the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges, so your the students, the courses, the degrees, and the majors that they study under. The HECB, which is your financial aid, higher ed, certification board. NCS, which is your degree verification and enrollment verification. National Student Clearinghouse. Okay, ESD, which is your Employment Security Division. So this is basically just industry, workforce, the hours that employees work and their earnings go through that system. WTECB is your Workforce Training and Education Coordinating Board. So this is career schools, non-credit workforce programs, is all fed through there. LNI is your Labor and Industry. This is your state apprenticeships right there. PCHEES, okay, Public Centralized Higher Ed Enrollment System, so students, courses, degrees, and majors. DRS is your Department of Retirement Systems, and your DOC is Department of Corrections. So I thought this was a compelling picture showing how everything kind of feeds into this main data hub. Okay, so we're going to shift gears just a little bit here and talk about wraparound services and what this has to do with your student education records. What we've seen is legislation that has been proposed that would provide wraparound services, which essentially is healthcare and medical, dental, mental health, counseling, and physical health being provided at the school. What I want you to understand is this will happen. This information that is collected there can happen and be shared without parental consent. Okay? So this is where it gets a little tricky because most parents believe that HIPPA protects medical records. Well, what is happening, and this is a U.S. Department of Ed PDF that is a Q&A, and it asks, does HIPAA privacy rule apply to an elementary or secondary school? And it says generally no. In most cases, HIPAA privacy rule does not apply to an elementary or secondary school because the school is not either a HIPAA-covered entity or the records that they maintain, the health information, only on students in records that are, by definition, education records under FERPA. So their health records become part of the education record under the definition of FERPA, and therefore they are not subject to HIPAA privacy rule. So when they're talking about wraparound services at being given at the school district level, what is happening is they're merging your student education records and their medical records. So they're all part of one record, and there goes your privacy. Okay, I wanted to share this with you. I just think this is so compelling. This happened recently. It was a California judge orders P2 student records or personally identifiable student records to be shared with a not-for-profit. So here's a not-for-profit corporation or organization that sued the California Department of Ed for student records, and they won. This, like I said, this just happened recently. The judge ruled in favor of the not-for-profit. They're saying that 10 million plus children's personal information is going to be shared with this not-for-profit. And parents did not give their consent, nor do they have any, honestly, a lot of them don't even have any knowledge that this is happening. So, and not only did that happen, if that's not egregious enough, they made the ruling retroactive to 2008. So if you went to school 2008 or beyond that, you're lumped into, this isn't just current student records. This goes back all the way to 2008. All right, so something that we feel really compelled to do is not just research issues or concerns, but also we want to look for solutions. And something I want to share with you is that when we were fighting Common Core, and obviously we're still trying to fight Common Core, but when all this education change and shift was happening, we got together with parents from across the state, and in attendance was a Missouri constitutional lawyer. And he listened to your stories and your experiences, and what was birthed through that was a parental rights constitutional amendment, HJR 99 and SJR 38. So this is the same amendment. It's being carried in the House and the Senate. And essentially what this does is it gives rights to parents. Rights that have always been given to us, mostly at a federal level, but what we're seeing is the erosion of those rights. And since we've been talking about data, I just want to quickly talk about how a little bit of the language that's in the proposed constitutional amendment that will address these concerns. And it says that the government entities will be required to obtain parents' explicit permission before soliciting information or sharing data and information on a minor child, and that neither the parent nor the child shall in any way be punished or penalized if a parent refuses such permission. Okay, so basically what this does is roll back the clock to provide parents the ability to once again be the gatekeeper for their child's personally identifiable information that's contained in their medical records or in their student education records. We're just so grateful to Representative Eric Burleson for sponsoring this amendment in the House, and Senator Kurt Schaefer for sponsoring it in the Senate. Please take just a quick moment to call their offices and thank them for listening to the concerned parents throughout Missouri and for their efforts to try to protect what it is that the underpinnings, basically, they're kind of falling off of parental rights at the federal level. And what they're trying to do is help us provide a bulwark to parents in Missouri so that this doesn't continue to happen. Okay, so I just want you to take a quick moment to look up your representative at house.mo.gov. It's super easy. And we just want you to ask them to please, they can co-sponsor or support HJR 99, and then look up senate.gov, mo.gov, look up your senator and ask them to support SJR 38. Something we're really looking forward to doing is sharing more stories of parents. We want you to be able to hear the stories that we've heard from parents and understand their experiences. And I think what you're going to begin to see is why the language in the parental rights proposed amendment is what it is. And you'll be able to see what it is we're trying to do with this language. We really feel like this is just basically the line in the sand. If we don't have a right to control what happens to our children, we don't have any fundamental rights. I mean, I don't know how much more basic a right can be than to be able to protect our children. That is the most natural God-given right. So we look forward to sharing those stories with you, and we hope that you can be able to digest the language of the amendment and feel really excited about the stories we'll be sharing with you and the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So give your representative a call and your senator a call, and hopefully this will be a springboard for further discussion. We're very excited about it. Thank you so much.